Welcome to Diet Rebellion, the podcast that's here to help you break free from the chains of dieting and finally take control of your health, strength, and confidence. I'm Joe Hoy, your host and the founder of Diet Detox. After transforming the lives of thousands of women over 40 who have been trapped in the endless diet cycle, I'm here to show you a new way. One that focuses on eating for your body's needs, restoring your metabolism, and rebuilding your strength for life. Get ready for real, no bullshit conversations, expert insights, and actionable strategies that empower you to live diet-free and thrive. It's time to stop restricting and start rebuilding. Join the rebellion. Your journey starts now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Menopause from a Man. Today's guest is Tracy Makanuku. She is from New Zealand and she has over 3 decades of experience inside the fitness, nutrition, and coaching industry. I think that she takes the cake for a guest on Menopause from a Man with the biggest amount of experience. And you're gonna realize really quickly that that experience translates into the results that she can get her clients because of how well-versed she is in what she does. Tracy only focuses on women in menopause. This came from an absolute desire to help women just like her avoid the pain that she experienced while entering perimenopause, but actually not even knowing what perimenopause was and the 10 symptoms she was experiencing every single day, while still, like I said, not knowing they were menopause related. Everybody, this episode is packed with a whole bunch of stuff that you already know you should be doing, said in a really easy to digest and simple to apply way, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Tracy, welcome to Menopause from a Man, all the way from New Zealand. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. I'm excited to be talking to a guy about menopause. 95% of the people I talk to about menopause are women. And so it's really good to have this conversation with you, Joe.
That's awesome. Yeah, no surprise there. The general thing that I hear, because I guest on a lot of podcasts too, is, and funny, you and I were just talking about intros. The intro I usually get is, and this is the first man that's ever been on the show. So I always claim that title.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you were on my podcast, you would be maybe the 6th or 7th, which is getting quite exciting that there are definitely more men saying, okay, I think we need to get in on this conversation because my partner, my mum, my sister, my work colleagues, they're all really struggling, or they finally opened up and told me what's going on and I really want to help. So to think that we would be excluding men from the conversation just doesn't make sense to me.
It never made sense to me either, right? Like because of who I am and because of who I help, there have certainly been a small percentage of this population that have been pissed, right? They've been like, who are you to help me? You're never going to experience this. And it's like, yeah, no shit. But at the same time, like, I bet many of you have a male OBGYN and I bet you take his advice. So what's the difference here?
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree with that. And I don't think that we should exclude you because of your youth or because of your gender. If you are genuinely interested, especially if you're in the fitness industry, I think that the biggest opportunity actually lies with women 40 plus. They are struggling with their health, their weight, their fitness, and they have the money to spend on a personal trainer who knows what they're doing. And what we're looking at is a really underserved, undertapped market when it comes to fitness specifically. You and I both work in the industry, and you can see that the biggest opportunity probably lies in the women's 40 plus. It actually always has been that, with women that can afford their own personal training sessions or pay for a nice gym and extra boutique classes and all of that. They will buy that to look after their health. But when they're coming in to look for a trainer who doesn't know what they're doing, it makes it really challenging. Yeah, so that's what I hear in the market is women are saying, I can't find a trainer who actually knows how to look after me. So good on you, Joe.
It's so funny you say that because we're running a challenge that starts tomorrow. And I was talking to somebody, she was, I don't know, she's got to be like in her 50s. And she's like, Joe, to be honest with you, I'm just a little bit nervous because I've worked with a male trainer in the past and he thought I was him. Like he was just throwing me all these crazy workouts and it didn't work. It broke me. I felt worse. And I was like, wow, well, here we go fighting this uphill battle again of poor experiences that I have nothing to do with. But I mean, it's a very valid thought process for sure.
Yeah. Well, I congratulate you for jumping on board with it because you're ahead of the game. So anyone that's in the menopause conversation right now, it's only going to go up. And I think it's what it comes down to is breaking the taboo, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we've been doing. And I'm Gen X, I'm 54. So I was just pretty mad that no one had educated me on what a woman would experience at this life stage. You know, when you're passionate about how the body works, you love the science and the physiology behind it, and then nobody's told you about this important life stage and how it impacts you physically, mentally, emotionally, relationally, career, like all the things. I was pissed.
Yeah.
So it's like going back to the drawing board, relearning my whole body and relearning the physiology for women and what's going to work and what's not going to work. And there's so much BS out there still. And I think one of the big things is diet. Oh my gosh. If you ever go on a Facebook page for menopause, one of the top trending conversations will be, which diet should I be on? I'm like, are you kidding me? Are we still here? We're still having this conversation?
Yeah. It's not which diet. It is not which diet. We can promise you
It is
that.
not which diet.
We'll get into that. I just took a note on that. So I want to dive
Okay.
in. But Tracy, can you just tell me more about you, both for the audience and selfishly for me? Who is Tracy and how did you get here?
Yeah, thanks. I think we kicked off the conversation before we even like introduced ourselves. So
Absolutely.
I'm Tracy. I'm based in New Zealand, but I spent 20 years working overseas in the fitness industry, building businesses and teams. I have a background in physical education and I've retrained as a menopause fitness specialist. I retrained because I was going through the experience of menopause without knowing that's what it was, perimenopause symptoms. I'm a mum of two. I have a 20-year-old and a 11-year-old. So there's a nice big gap in between, which keeps things calm. I spent 20 years in Asia and then repatriated back to New Zealand about 3 years ago and just started my brand Sexy Aging, which actually started with a podcast as a hobby. And I think that's one of the cool things about podcasting. Anyone can do it.
Yep.
And you learn a lot of stuff along the way. You meet some really amazing people. And the conversations that I was having in Sexy Aging just got me thinking, hey, there's a real need here for credible information on how to look after your health during menopause. And with my background, it felt like a natural fit to kind of create more content, whether it be blogging or through social media. I developed a course, I wrote a book, and recently launched an all-in-one fitness and health app for menopause. So it's just been like a really amazing later in life entrepreneurial journey. Yeah, and it's like everything I talk about every day is menopause. So here we are.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so I'm curious, was this just driven by desire?
By pain,
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah. So I guess we're saying the same thing, but like you had this desire to keep people from pain, right? Because you experienced it and you're like, holy shit, more people need to know about this. More people need to know how to navigate it and nobody's doing it. So hell, I'm going to be the one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, to be honest, just to reflect back, and I reflect back quite often, I started to go through perimenopause or enter perimenopause when I was about 44 and I had a baby at 42. So there's a real hormonal crack point with that experience where you have a baby, you now have a toddler, your body is still recovering and your hormones are shifting into perimenopause. So I had that experience, but I didn't realize it was perimenopause because I'd never had the education.
Sure.
I thought it was because I had a baby late in life and I was really struggling to recover. And so I had about 4 years of perimenopause symptoms before I Googled what the heck is this. So I want to say like my top 10 were waking up in the night, high levels of stress, anxiety, joint pain, night sweat, brain fog, what else? Low libido, skin changes, headache, period fluctuation. So I was having all of that and it just felt like it wasn't related apart from stress. I thought, well, maybe stress is the reason I'm waking up. So with very little sleep over 4 years, in the middle of the night, I Googled all these things and the word perimenopause came up, right? And I was like, what the heck is that? And it was the real motivation behind finding out more about what was happening to me. Then walking into our gyms and looking around me and seeing other women similar age starting to come up to me and saying, I'm not sleeping, or why am I sweating so much? Or I can't remember things now, or what was your name again? You know, like there was lots of little random moments with other women and interactions that I was having that made me think, hey, we're all going through this and why is nobody talking about it? You know, I'm quite an open book, and especially when it comes to the body, I don't see these things as taboo or you stop talking about it. I feel and having spoken to a lot of women recently, that menopause is often aligned with aging, and aging isn't seen as a good thing, right? So it's like you're over the hill, you're off the cliff.
Yeah.
You know, all these negative, you know, conversations around what it means to be aging. And the fitness industry is notorious ageism. Like it's a youthified glorified industry. So as I'm going through perimenopause, working full time in the industry, thinking, oh, I'm now too old for this. Should I leave? Should I retrain? Should I do something else? So there's a whole lot of doubts and stuff around that. And then, yeah, just sort of spending more time in the space, realizing that the need was really great and that I had something that I could offer, particularly what I know now from science, that menopause is the gateway to aging. And then there are a whole lot of health implications that can happen when you don't really take care of yourself. So we're not just working out now to look a certain way, to be a certain size. We're really working out to look after our long-term health, because when you're in postmenopause, it's the next 30 or 40 years of your life. That's a significant chunk of living. And you don't want to be living that, chunk of your life in poor health. So it's like, okay, the reason that we're lifting weights, why we're eating anti-inflammatory foods, why we're going to sleep at a reasonable hour, this is now to really take care of our long-term health. And that was a major mindset shift for me as well. So I'm helping other women understand that, to get off the diet train, to get, into different kinds of training that's really good for their body, that helps them recover as well. And to help them understand that it's more than a size, it's more than a shape, it's about really taking care of your health, which isn't sexy and doesn't sound fantastic, but I think over time, women are starting to really appreciate that. They're like, yeah, I do want to climb that mountain. I do want to go fishing with my grandkids. I don't want to be that broken old lady who's forgotten your name, which would be the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So talk about taboo, right? You had these 10 symptoms that today you would look at in conjunction with each other and automatically just be like, oh, you're in perimenopause. But this was so taboo that even in your life, you're like, what is happening? And so that's wild. And just thanks to you for being that advocate, being like, you know what, I didn't know, which means that other women don't know. So I'm going to let them know. That's amazing.
Yeah. I often get asked, obviously all the things that I do come under a brand, Sexy Aging. So I get asked, why would you call it that? Some people are like,
I like it.
I like it because it's memorable and it's confronting for some people. It's confronting for some people. Can you be sexy and aging? Now, it's just depending on how you view the word sexy. And I'm not talking about sex. I'm saying sexy is a feeling. It's a feeling that you embrace in yourself. And I've noticed it as I'm aging that I feel good about myself. I'm feeling good. So that's what I align with sexy. I don't go around saying, hey, I'm sexy. But it's just that feeling. I feel really good. I feel like my brain function has come back to full capacity. For a while there, it was pretty bad. I definitely missed picking up my kids from school multiple times. And I did a couple of times walking into the gym, clients in front of me that I forgot their name. It's kind of nice to feel that that full brain function has come back and that I'm feeling good again. And then just the accepting of I am aging, and that's not a taboo. That's a normal life stage for all of us. And there's some major upside to being in my 50s.
I love that. That. It's just a massive perspective shift. And it's funny you talk about the brain fog and the brain health, because earlier this morning I interviewed Catherine O'Keefe. She's really big in Ireland for just women's health in the workplace. And she actually polled most of Ireland and asked what the biggest symptom they're experiencing and for women in menopause. And by far, it led by a mile, it was brain fog.
Oh, wow. Well, that's interesting because we also have a really big study here in New Zealand, led by a prominent menopause specialist doctor here. And the number one was anxiety. So I guess it kind of goes along with the brain fog and the anxiety, because you start to feel anxious when you're not remembering things, right? And especially in the workplace, which you're right. So in the workplace, brain fog aligns with underperformance.
Yeah. And it's funny you say anxiety, because that was probably half the conversation that we had was around anxiety. So massive links there. But I'm curious, because at this point, and maybe it's just because I'm in this industry that I see it a lot, but there's a lot of people, and this is a good thing, that help women in menopause in one way or another. What sets you apart?
Yeah, I think my credibility comes from, over 3 decades in the fitness industry.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And a real passion for understanding women's health. This is not rocket science, Joe. Not a lot has changed.
Right.
We just keep going around in circles. I've seen things come and go multiple times, including fashion. And so when it comes to understanding how the body works, it's quite basic. It's not that difficult. And I just feel like we can get all really hung up in so many different conversations on how the body works and which diet is best and all that sort of stuff. But it's not rocket science. We know that lean muscle tissue is the gold standard for longevity, and it always always has been. And what's really exciting today is to watch many young women choose strength and resistance training over any other workout now. And my daughter included, like, to know that they're like, no, I want to have some lean muscle. I want that. Like, but when I was younger, it was all about cardio, you know? So the Jane Fonda, oh, actually Jane Fonda's well before my time, but we're talking like jazz aerobics and classes and step new body and, you know, lots of kind of cardio based workouts was why we went to the gym. And a big part of that is community, which is still important for women and the support that you get. But now, you know, the shift for younger women is they want to do weight training. They want to be strong. They want to have lean muscle. And that needs to pervade more across to the older generation women who are still a little bit hung up in the cardio. You know, if I run for 10Ks, I'll burn X amount of calories. And then if I only take in this amount of calories, then I will stay the same size. Like, we're still kind of stuck in that narrative because we've grown up with this ideal of slim is good. Whereas now we understand, well, slim, maybe you're relatively healthy, but you've lost 8 to 16% of your lean muscle tissue in 10 years, you know, just in that menopause life stage. And that is not healthy. You know, that actually has a huge negative impact on your bone density, your heart health, your brain health, and your joint strength. So, you know, we can't afford to lose that lean muscle tissue. And I think that's sort of where the narrative has shifted. Well, that's kind of why I'm here. You did ask that question, you know, what is it that I'm doing? And I'm just trying to highlight women, hey, look, we need to be doing this strength training. And having said that, there is also that flip side of the narrative where there is some menopause specialists and physiologists, top physiologists like Dr. Stacey Sims, who I love. She's amazing. Her content is really fantastic for people like you and I, Joe. You know, we're obsessed with physiology and understanding exactly how the body works. However, the downside of that is 90% of my audience have never been to the gym, have never lifted weights. You tell them to lift heavy shit, they're like, what, how, when? Like,
and they think
you want me to go to the and you want me to go to the gym and do a 5-rep max deadlift? I've never done a deadlift in my life. And I come from that place where I'm like, start where you're at, you know, like if you do not work out, you're actually going to get off the couch and just go for a 10-minute walk. And you're going to start with that because it's going to tick the boxes for more than just the physical health, especially when you're in menopause. You know, you get that morning sun in your eyes for your circadian rhythm, which will help support your hormonal fluctuations. I don't talk about hormone balance because that's not possible at this time in your life to get hormonal balance. In actual fact, a woman's hormones never really balance.
Oh, they don't. They change month to month.
They change month to month, and then definitely through menopause. And then if high stress comes in, then it's going to be different again. So yeah, I'm just like, start where you're at, and build up and find something you love, and then understand that you do need to have that lean muscle tissue. And let's start with some body weight training. Then let's add some resistance. Now let's add some heavier weight. So it's like a layered process versus, okay, get in the gym, do a 5-rep max deadlift, clean and press. That'll do it for you. I'm like, actually, that'll probably injure you and you won't be back to the gym. So that's where I'm at.
And then you'll never get back in because you're scared and you have now a bad relationship with the gym. I love that. And I love what you said, and I couldn't agree more with the generational change in terms of what I see a lot of women wanting to do in the gym. Like my wife sitting in front of me on our patio, she is strong. That girl is strong. Pound for pound, we are very close in amount of strength. She has a massive amount of muscle on her body. And just like forecasting what her life is going to be like when she's your age is going to be incredible.
Amazing.
Because she has so
if she
much
keeps
muscle.
going. Yeah.
I love it. But then we have the women that we work with one-on-one, and very similar to what you said, they've never been in the gym, or if they did, they've only been on the treadmill or the stair stepper. And so having me, right, a fairly muscular guy, tell them, hey, you got to go strength train. And as a matter of fact, you got to strength train like me. That's scary because then they think if they do what I do, they're going to look like I look, which just isn't the case. The reason we're doing this is so that, just like you said, Tracy, you have that muscle, you have that metabolism, you have the ability to lose body fat and keep your shape and keep your health because of all this.
Yeah, I think women also need to understand that because of the hormonal fluctuations, their body composition will actually shift. It will shift. Even for a fitness person like myself, I noticed some changes. They were subtle, but I noticed them because I was uncomfortable in this changing body shape. And that did make me realize, hey, I'm doing way too much cardio. I did let my strength training slip. I sort of, instead of 2 or 3 times a week, I was down to like once a week if I could find the time. So I definitely noticed the visceral fat gain. So it's just understanding that, yeah, you know, having that lean muscle tissue puts a cap on that visceral fat gain. Now, many women who will go through menopause, if they're not strength training, will notice that visceral fat gain relatively quickly. Like within a year, they may have put on, you know, about 10 10 to 15 pounds of extra weight, predominantly around their midsection. And that's quite confronting. But there is a way back, and it just takes a little bit longer. And I think that the motivation to, try to get that fat gain off again, that it could take 2 years, is like, it's not so motivating when they hear that, but then it's changing that mindset shift around that visceral fat is actually kind of unhealthy. So let's think about what we're doing day to day, health, decreasing your cortisol levels by going to bed, decrease your stress, because stress is a massive thing at this stage of life for women. We talk about all the different things, all the different stresses in midlife that are actually negatively impacting on their hormones, right? So, and that causes visceral fat gain because your body is going fight or flight. I'm going to hold on to this because, bad times are coming. That's literally what we're teaching our body. And it's like, it's actually a really confronting life stage. Instead of just the menopausal changes that are happening, it's a whole cultural thing that's happening for women in this life stage. So it's very nuanced.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. What I'm interested in is hearing your take on diet, because what we already discovered very early in the episode is there's not a right diet, right? There's not a right diet. And if we go into those Facebook groups, everybody's still searching for what is it? And you and I seem to think there's not a diet that we should follow. So if that's not true, what should be happening in terms of nutrition?
Yeah, for nutrition, for women in menopause, I like to keep it as simple as possible. Foods that are grown in the ground and grown on trees is probably, your ideal carbohydrates. So the first thing I recommend is, get away from the fad diets. Anything that's restrictive, that's overly complex, is not sustainable. Like I've seen this for decades, women going on diets, off diets, on diets, off diets. And I'm kind of like feeling like, I think we're done with that now. And when you get to this life stage, you've got to be thinking like, can we stop? Can we just stop and take care of our health? I will say though, when it comes to calorie counting, it does become more difficult for a woman in menopause because we're not able to balance or manage our hormonal fluctuations. They're going to happen. It's the body saying, hey, let's just have a baby. Come on, we can do it one more time, and pushing up the estrogen, and you can't control that. And when the estrogen fluctuations kick in, insulin is not going to play nicely anymore. Cortisol's bantering around all hours of the night. So these things do impact on your body composition. So there's a level of acceptance that this does happen for 51% of the population, right? So a couple of things when it comes to nutrition is we do need to increase our protein levels. So as we are naturally losing lean muscle, if you're not strength training or you've just gone back to strength training, then you need to provide those essential amino acids in your body to maintain your lean muscle tissue. So getting a really good high protein breakfast and maintaining what I call front loading your day, high protein breakfast, protein supplement in the morning. Hey, look, if you just do those two things, if those are the two things that you change in your nutrition, you're actually winning already. And then just having protein with each main meal, having a protein bar as a snack. So just kind of being a little bit more protein focused. The next thing I'd say is increase your fiber. Okay, so as our digestive system is also impacted by a loss of estrogen, you'll notice things like more bloating, not able to digest foods that you were eating before, such as dairy or bread, and this is one thing I noticed. I never had any digestive issues until I came into perimenopause. So one of the things that I think really helps is keeping like lots of fiber in your diet, lots of vegetables. Don't be afraid of fruit. Come on.
Please.
Oh my God.
Fruit or potatoes?
Yeah, or potatoes. I know. I mean, potatoes are great. I'd recommend sweet potato because it's low GI, low inflammatory. So yeah, and don't be afraid of carbohydrates as well. So, but the best ones to have is the low GI. So brown rice instead of white, sweet potato, pumpkin, quinoa. Throw some lentils in there. So that kind of low GI carbohydrates, because we can not also not afford to cut out our fuel source for our brain, right? When you're going through brain fog and you've got anxiety, the last thing you want to do is strip away a macronutrient from your diet that's actually going to support your brain function. So having a little bit of that as well is important. So increase your protein, kick up your fiber, don't drop your carbohydrates, but look at the low GI carbohydrates. make sure you're getting lots of water, decrease your caffeine, 2 coffees down and done before 12 o'clock, cut out your alcohol. And those are my top tips. That's it. That's not really a diet. That's like good, healthy nutrition.
They're just habits to live by. And I love that
Yeah.
you said the carb thing, because I mean, I'm sure you see it all the time too, but so many of the women that I work with, like, all right, Joe, everything's in order. I'm even watching my carbs. I'm keeping them low. I'm like, all right, then not everything is in order. How about you go double or triple your carb intake and talk to me in 2 weeks? And for the ones that listen to me, right? So if you're listening and you want to try this, please do. For the ones that listen to me and double or triple their carb intake, they come back feeling like a different human being.
Yeah, they've got the energy to do great workouts and recover well, think well, be creative, all these things that are important.
Yeah, I find that that's one of the first things we'll implement for women that have trouble sleeping, right? They'll start with some carbs at night, which is actually what they've been taught is the complete worst thing they could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, seriously, Joe, if I be honest, I wouldn't have had much, starchy carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. I wouldn't have eaten much of that for sort of 20 years of my life. And then when I went into perimenopause, I realized I was missing the carbohydrates, and it was the lack of fuel, and the lack of recovery, not recovering after workouts, not giving my body the fuel to recover properly. And I found that when I introduced the low GI carbohydrates at night, I just slept better. Just slept way better, deeper, better quality sleep, not waking up hungry. So yeah.
I love that. And that's why I love this podcast, because like, I know what I'm talking about. We've changed hundreds, if not thousands of lives. But at the same time, we always have these new listeners who are like, yeah, we get it, but you're also 30 and you're a guy. So having this come from you, and you not only saying that you teach this, but you found this to be true for your life is massive. So I love that. Is there anything else that you would think is an absolute staple that these women would need to implement in a simple way?
Stress reduction.
How do we do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a combination of stress reduction and giving your body adequate rest. And coming from the fitness industry or a fitness background, it would be normal for me to train 6 days a week, of different modes. So some strength, some cardio, some HIIT, some sit training, definitely stretching most days. But I found during my peak perimenopause years, I think it was like late 40s, I found that my body actually didn't want to do stuff some days. And so backing it up to a walk was enough, because the lack of estrogen on some of those days, like when the estrogen peaks massively and you're feeling like, woo, I'm going to do this. And then it suddenly drops, right? And it can drop within 48 hours to a place where it's very, very low. If you've done a high intensity workout or a strong strength training workout at your peak estrogen, and then it suddenly drops overnight, you will wake up more sore than you've ever been, and it takes much longer to recover because the estrogen is not there in your muscles to help you recover and transfer the lactic acid. And so it's just like accepting that you need more rest. 72 hours sometimes. Rest could be active rest, could be a yoga class, it could be a walk, and be accepting of that. That's what your body needs, and it's not forever, so as you come through perimenopause, sometimes you can even get back to that previous training that you had. I'm now back to that level of 3 strength training sessions a week, 2 sit training sessions, and lots of yoga. Like I've kind of almost doubled down on the stretching, just so I don't turn into this old lady who can't turn her neck when she's driving. And stress reduction is a really important factor, because our stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, are elevated at this time of our lives, and also that we've got a lot going on. Teenagers, aging parents, maybe more responsibilities at work, lots of things going on at home. So just taking 10 minutes a day to breathe. So this would be my go-to, which is like 10 minutes of meditation. And I was never a huge fan of meditation until I started going through menopause. I believe in it. Don't get me wrong. I've never been one of those people that's, poo-poo, don't do that, because there's way too much science to support it. Just saying, like, you just have to look up scientific evidence of the benefits of meditation, and there is a lot of really good articles. Because what we're looking at is 10 minutes of breathing actually can decrease those stress hormones. And so giving your body a chance to have some time without stress hormones is a positive impact in your menopause life. Yeah,
I love that. That's a big one.
Talking to a friend, meeting other people in menopause and having a good laugh about the crazy symptoms. I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it, but that would be my go-to if you were by yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny, just simply being can be so much harder than doing anything, right? Sitting down and meditating for 10 minutes is harder than exercise for some people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So we cover nutrition. We know what to do for exercise. More is not going to equal more. And to slow down a little. I love that. Tracy, if anybody wants to learn more about the way you do things, or they love your approach and they want to spend time with you, where can they find you?
So everything that I have some like free resources and reading, and obviously the podcast, and then I have some paid activities that you can, if you want to take it up a notch and really get on top of this. So everything comes under the brand Sexy Aging, and aging is with an E. So Sexy Aging, AGEING.com.
I love it. And what do you think? What's your most popular free resource? I'm curious.
The podcast coming up to episode 100 actually.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm interviewing a friend. She's an author. She's put out her second menopause book, which are both bestsellers here in New Zealand, and we are going to do a review on how we've noticed the menopause landscape changing in the last few years, because 5 years ago it was silent and now it's noisy. Well, for us, because we're working in this space, but we're going to have a deep dive into, what's hot in the menopause space.
Amazing. That'll be great. Well, Tracy, thank you so much. And I hope
Thanks
that
for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I hope that everybody goes to spend some time with you.